Hello and welcome to the Classic Car Weekly podcast, the sibling podcast to the popular weekly title. I'm this week's host, Jesse Billington, and I'm joined by editor David Simister.
Good morning.
And features editor Chris Hope.
Hello.
How are we both? And as usual, how are the classics?
Yeah, very good. A significant moment this morning on the way down. The Toyota Avensis clocked over 130,000 miles and still it soldiers on.
Very nice. It's racking up the distance, your Toyota, I will say.
Absolutely. No, it's I've done more than 100,000 miles under my custody now, and it's still proving pretty reliable so far. But again, it's that's the latest on the Toyota, and the Mazda is still looking quite sad and unloved. So that's on my to-do list as well.
Is the near side indicator still working after I fixed it?
It very much is, yes.
Excellent. Good.
As is the offside indicator.
My repair holding up.
That slightly previews next podcast, though, doesn't it? Because your Avensis is going to make its Our Classics debut in the issue on sale next week on the 20th of August. So there was much umming and ahhing, wasn't there, in terms of whether it should be, shouldn't be included sort of thing. So, but yeah, it was ultimately the British Motor Museum that swayed you, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, well, if it's appeared at the British Motor Museum and it got crowds at the festival and exceptional, then I think it's, I think its time has arrived.
I think along with your Jimny, it's probably one of the hardest working cars on the fleet, isn't it? So.
Yeah, quite probably. I mean, the Jimny's getting close to 90,000 miles. I think I might hit 90,000 by the end of the year. I know that we've well into the 80s at the moment as it stands, and I think we've got a fair few miles to rack up for the rest of the year. But yeah, the Jimny needs a bit of love and care later this year. But again, that relies on me having a second car to sort of use while the Jimny's off the road for what could be sort of a week-long repair, getting the front axle overhauled. But Chris, your classic, we haven't been on the pod for a bit. Yeah, how's the Mini doing?
Absolutely nothing has happened. Yeah, the poor Mini is sat gathering dust. The poor thing, especially over summer. I should really be out using it. Life is getting in the way. Life is very busy. I am being productive though, so I need to make room for the engine to come out over the winter period. I'm certainly not going to say Christmas because that's very unlikely. But during its downtime, over winter and hibernation, I need to make space in the garage for the engine to come out so I can replace all of the seals, because currently it is not able to retain its oil to the levels that is required, because at the moment it's just not happening. So I've made progress. I have taken out a big stack of shelves out of the garage and they've been moved into the shed. Lots of things that were in the garage is now in the shed, so now I have a corner of the garage where I can get the engine out and do some work. The fact that I don't have an engine stand or any sort of timescales when I'm doing this is neither here nor there. I'm still counting it as progress.
You don't need an engine stand. I've done all the engine work to the MG with just an old desk from a Vauxhall sales office. So that's worked quite well so far. I don't
trust a 15-year-old sort of Bosch workbench, though. I think it's not going to... I wouldn't want to. I think that's just a disaster waiting to happen.
We pilfered a second set of legs from another salesman's desk to prop up the middle of the desk as well. So it's enhanced, but it proved to be quite resilient actually, especially when it came to sort of moving the block around. We just put a load of heavy duty grease on the desk so we could sort of like spin the block on it.
Bearing in mind that my 5-year-old son's bike is inevitably going to be parked next to this engine, I don't want a scenario whether I'm having to talk to my wife about why my son has been squashed by an A-series engine sort of thing. So this has to be secure. So
this is true. Yeah, probably better putting it on like a proper stand or a frame while you're working away on it. But yeah, it's slow progress. You've got to do all the preamble work to it to make it as easy as possible. Yeah, I know where you're getting. You've got to have all the right things in the right place before you start a big project. Otherwise, like me, you're just chasing your tail.
Very naive of me to think that the 6-week holiday I would have some free time when I've got 2 kids. But hey ho.
Yeah, that's We'll see. Anyway, yes. Well, I won't touch on the MG because it's not a positive sign. Things are coming back off of the engine because I need to get to the timing chain cover. And it turns out that despite the MG sort of owner's manual suggesting that the timing chain is refreshed every 30,000 miles, it also means you have to remove the entire steering rack to do so.
Oh, joy.
Yeah. MG really figured that one out. Essentially, to try and get the crankshaft pulley off, you can get the nut off quite easily. It's then a case of trying to actually get the pulley off, and the problem is that runs straight into the steering rack, which runs right in front of it. So undo 4 bolts, pull the steering rack forwards a little bit, pulley off, timing chain cover off, and then hopefully I'll get the time chain off, adjust the cam position, which I think think is the cause of the rough running issues, and get it all properly aligned, because we fitted a new sprocket, but the new sprocket arrived without any like position markings to it, so we just sort of had to put the old one on, vaguely face up the new one, and then try and guess that we'd got it in the right place. Apparently we haven't, hence the reason why it took like a huge twist of timing at the distributor to even get it to sort of run and idle. So yeah, we're working backwards to that point, adjust the cam position.
Very much hoping for an Indian summer, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got hopes that October is going to be a long, warm, dry month that I might be able to enjoy the car in. But again, it's a fun car to drive in winter because the heater is incredibly punchy and powerful, and it slides around nicely on frosty roads. So we'll see what happens. I've got plenty of friends that have come forward who are better engineers than I that have also offered to help. So including one who said, it's painful watching this happen. Let me just build the engine for you at this point. So I'm like, maybe that's a solution. But we'll see how it goes.
Beers and bribery.
A good bit of bribery and a bit of help with the engineering when it comes to his Formula Ford racer might sort of pay back the favour, but that's us getting sidetracked. We'll dive into this week's issue, and we've got a bumper issue out on shop shelves this week. It's our August bumper issue, looking ahead to the bank holiday weekend, and there is a lot of great content in it. And we'll kick off with the Iconic Auctioneers test drive, that's one of the main features that sits within it. And then if you want to sort of dive in behind the scenes to this one, sort of how we ended up with the cars we ended up, the choices we made.
So obviously, Iconic Auctioneers is holding a huge sale at the Silverstone Festival, comprising 5 different sales, one for competition cars, one for collectors' cars. They're also doing a bike sale, automobilia. But the one we're focusing on here is the sale that's taking place on the Sunday. And this is a massive sale of more than 150 cars under sort of the classic banner. And what that basically means is that the vast majority of the cars that are in the sale are at attractive price points sort of thing. So there's huge amounts of cars here that you can get for sort of under £15,000. There's more than a few that you can get for under 10k as well. But the prices in this sale don't exceed sort of 40 or 50, and if they do, it's only sort of in a handful of cases, exceptional cases sort of thing. So we sort of were approached by Iconic. They mentioned that they'd be more than happy for us to come along and drive some of their cars for sale. The 3 cars that they had prepped for us was quite an interesting sort of mix of cars, all hailing from sort of that late 60s into early 70s period. So we had a Daimler 250 V8, a Rover 3-litre Mark III, and we had a Fiat 500, and you drove the Fiat 500. You were quite enamored with that, weren't you?
I really liked the Fiat 500, actually. I've not driven one of them before until this point in time, so I was sort of quite eager to get behind the wheel of what was essentially a very good sort of example of the mark, and sort of find out what made them such sort of captivating cars. And yeah, it's a fun thing to drive, and it wheels around nicely. It's not the fastest car in the world by any means, but it gives a it gives a great sense of speed because you're so small, you're so low to the ground, and everything around you fizzes with sort of excitement. And yeah, you can bowl along. I think I had up to about 90 kilometers an hour, which is about 50 miles an hour, roughly around that point, which is more than enough for British B roads and for sort of getting from town to town. But I wouldn't say you could use it for like long distance touring, or if you did, it would take you a long time to get anywhere. But no, really nice car to sort of enjoy and sort of get acquainted with the quirks and foibles of, even if the weather wasn't great and we'd sort of pause for a bit mid-rain to get some of the shots.
Yeah, we were dodging showers throughout the entire day, weren't we, sort of thing. So I drove a Rover, the Rover 3-litre. That one was quite interesting because it was sort of rarity hyped upon rarity hyped upon rarity sort of thing. So the main sort of standout point was that rather than being an automatic, as is the case for the vast majority of these, it was actually a manual. I don't think it added a huge amount to the driving experience. It just gave that little bit more in terms of driver involvement. I mean, the engine majors on torque. There's the automatic is more than capable of sort of lifting its skirts and getting going sort of thing. So, but yeah, it was a really nice sort of relaxing car to drive. It's incredible thing to look at, particularly sort of in profile. You just sort of get the impression of this height and being sort of the Mark III. It's got just extra bits sort of thing. So it's got like the chrome that runs the strips that run the full length of the car sort of thing, and it's got this aura. I think is kind of the gist of it. But I was quite jealous that I didn't get to have a turn in the Daimler V8. That again looked like a really nice car.
The Daimler was a really nice car actually to sort of wheel about in, and you've got that busy 2.5 litre V8 at the front. It's a sort of unique engine. Turner design, it sort of stems a bit from motorcycles, which is why it's got this sort of strangely small capacity, high revving. But it's different. I want to really try and test drive one sort of back to back with a Mark II or a Mark I Jaguar to see sort of where the difference lies, because especially the V8 is in its construction a lighter engine. The spring rates on the Daimler are different to the Jaguar, and you get this sort of very different sense in the car. Instead of where you think the Jaguar is naturally a bit more of a sporting saloon, the Daimler is very refined. It is very quiet and comfortable in the way that it goes about, and it's a really nice place to be. And again, you've got this sort of unique to the Daimler dashboard and sort of layout, and you've got the sort of essentially a bench seat. It's two sort of essentially conjoined sort of giant armchairs really that make for a very plush place to sit and sort of enjoy the miles. And it struck me as a really good tourer. If you wanted to cover some properly long distances, if you want to do like sort of long weekends away, head off and do like the North Coast 500 or sort of do a tour around Wales or something, it's the perfect car for it. You've got a big boot to chuck everything in. You've got room to go 4 up easily, and it wouldn't really notice that it's lugging 4 people behind you. It'd be a great car. So yeah, the Daimler was a really nice experience. And then, I mean, on top of it, we've obviously driven 3 of those cars from that selection. My question, though, for the both of you is, any other cars that really caught your eye, sort of within the same bracket that we tested, so sort of tax exempt, roughly sub £15,000? Are there any other cars that really jumped out to you that are coming up? David, we'll go to you first.
I think there's a couple that really jumped out at me in this particular sale. One of which is a 2000 Jaguar XKR. This is the Silverstone special edition. They only made 50. It's a really good look. X100 Gen XKRs are absolutely on the floor at the moment. You can get really nice ones for sort of 4 to 5k, which funnily enough is what the estimate for this one is. It's got I'm just having a look at the details now. It's got fresh MOT as well. It's got lots of history. It looks like a really nice example, and it's a lot of car for the money. There's also one that caught my eye as well, a 1938 MGTA midget. T-type midgets are fabulous things to drive if they've been looked after, and this one certainly looks like it has. It's had been restored. It's had new ash frame. It's had replacement engine. It's got a Volkswagen steering box as well to make it a little bit sweeter as well in terms of steering. It's got lots of history. It's got a new hood as well. And the thing that surprised me about these is actually T-type MGs for years. It used to be the case that the cheap ones, you'd naturally kind of gravitate to the TD, which is actually a very sort of sweet handling car to drive. But this one is the TA, which I think is probably one of the best looking of the bunch. The estimate is only 10 to 12, which actually I think is, if you get it for that kind of money, that's an awful lot of car for the money. So I think that is well worth a look, considering how much pre-war fun you're getting for the money. And the final one that picked my attention was a 1978 TVR Tamar. This is one, the thing that always strikes me with these cars is that it's got, it's a sports car with a Ford Essex V6. If you wanted a Ford Capri in that nick, you would be paying at least twice what you expected for this one. The estimate is only 6 to 8 grand. So, and the other thing to bear in mind with this car as well is not only is it a nice TVR Tamar, it's one that's been fully overhauled by our good friend Anne Hansted, and it's going to be on the next series of Born Mechanic. So if you want a car that is a TVR that's not only in great nick but has also been overhauled by one of the sort of the best known resto names in the business, then I think that's definitely worth a look.
Yeah, I spotted that Tamar. I think just in the context of just an MGB Roadster, the value for money that you're getting for that car is absolutely ridiculous sort of thing. So I think you get those sort of 60s looks. It's a pre-wedge sort of TVR, isn't it? So it just looks absolutely fantastic. And I think
the Tamar, I think I'm right in saying that's the hatchback model as well, isn't it? So
you've got that liftback canopy.
Yeah, it's got a liftback canopy to it as well. So it's a bit more practical as well. And I think as someone who had a Reliant Scimitar with the same engine, it always astonishes me. you get that wonderful Essex V6, but you're not paying the Ford tax to enjoy it.
It's a great way of circumventing the blue oval tax to sort of enjoying what is a really good classic powertrain. And I've always quite liked sort of TVRs and from across sort of the 60s, 70s, 80s, even sort of into the wedge period. I've always fancied one. I think that Tamar is a really good shout as well. Actually, I quite like the look of that.
I'm gonna, I'm not sure if I should put my money down now, but I reckon that will go for more than 6 to 8k.
I was thinking much the same for quite a few of the cars actually listed in here. There's some that are at sort of very competitive estimates. It'll be interesting to see sort of what goes for where. Certainly the ex-Top Gear Jeremy Clarkson Alfa Romeo is estimated at £12,000 to £15,000. It's in very rough condition. It was out and about running when we were there, and it did not sound healthy by any means. However, I think just for its kudos for what it is, it might do a bit more than £15,000.
Do you think? Because what do you do with that car? Because it's almost like a low mileage car where you make the argument that you can't really use it because it's going to spoil what it is, sort of thing. I think that's surely something that if it's been bought by a collector.
It's been bought by a collector, but I think if you wanted to use it, you could get it mechanically good again, but you could clear coat it. You could keep that very strange sort of, I think what it was described as colours, racing colours of Argentina. I think in the episode when they filmed it,
you'd buy it for the for the provenance.
Yes,
and I suspect you could do it up so you can use it every day. But I suspect what will happen is it'll either go to a museum. We already know that the Grampian Transport Museum has a Top Gear themed exhibition, so I wouldn't be surprised if they take an interest in it. But it could also be the case that someone buys it and they just they could trailer it from show to show.
Yeah,
it'd be a talking point wherever it goes. So that would make complete sense.
I'd clear coat it, keep the paintwork as it is, and get it mechanically sound and actually enjoy it, because the 75 is quite a sweet car, and that's got the lovely Busso V6 in it as well. Chris, if you were going to pick something else from the auction lot, what would you go for?
I've got a couple. David mentioned the MG TA, but it's not the only T series that's in the sale. I was actually shown over to this car in the warehouse while we were testing the three other cars. It's an MG TC, so a little bit later, and it was absolutely stunning. And along the same lines, it has an estimate of £12,000 to £15,000, which just seems like stupid value for these cars, sort of thing. I must admit, I know that it kind of overshadowed by MGAs and things like that, aren't they? The T series midgets nowadays, sort of thing. But you can have a car that sort of has that sort of 1940s, 1950s cool. These cars that sort of were made famous by the American sort of pilots that were over stationed here at various RAF bases. It's the cars that these era of cars that sort of launched sort of the golden era of the sports car sort of thing. And this one's in that fantastic sort of combination of cream with a red interior, and I looked the car over and there was just absolutely nothing to fault on it. Home restored in sort of the past 5 years, absolutely on the button so far as the dealers are concerned, sort of thing. And it's absolutely a car that you could just get in and enjoy, sort of thing. And absolutely in awe of it. But the one that really, really, really stood out for me was the 1973 Audi 100 Coupe S.
The red one.
Oh gosh,
yes,
it is
lovely.
Just absolutely stunning. £8,000 to £10,000. Very well documented history of it being of its time over in Ireland. And you just do not see them. These are, to my mind, these are the cars that I sort of read about in books whenever I'm sort of doing research on features. I don't see them at shows. I think if you were to show up at any show in that car, you would have a mob of people around you, sort of thing. The styling is just absolutely fantastic, sort of thing. I love sort of the fastback styling, the almost sort of Mustang rear with that quad lamp front, sort of thing. It's just so well balanced, so well proportioned. I'd love to know what it was like to drive, but sadly it wasn't one of the cars that was offered when we visited. So
no, that does look really nice, that one actually, and I get again, certainly with the TC as well, the value that's available in them is fantastic. And the 100, you just sort of you're right, you just don't see them, and I get it's sort of almost fictional in its existence. I will say that the car that really jumped out to me, and potentially is because I've always wanted one and still sort of lust after them. A friend of mine recently got his dream Mini, and there is one of my sort of dream Minis in this lot. It is the 2000 Mini Classic Cooper Sport, and I've always quite liked the sort of really late Rover ones with the fuel injection in them. They're a bit more sort of reliable. You can get a lot of power out of those fuel injected units, and I don't know. It's sort of they were still on the road and kicking around when I was growing up. It's sort of like the Mini of my childhood, more so than the sort of R52, the early BMW ones, and £10,000 to £12,000. That has been a fairly steady price for these Minis for quite some time. They used to be, when I was sort of just got into driving about a decade ago, they were about half that value, and they've sort of gone up to about the 10 to 15 mark and stabilized there. And this is one of the sort of last of the run sport editions, so that's a relatively rare car, and like they've got a good register for them, and it's in really good condition. It's green over silver with a silver roof and silver stripes. It's just really nicely presented. That properly caught my eye. If we're absolutely pushing the budget and sort of hoping that if anything this one goes for underestimate, the one thing that really caught my eye was on the second page of the listings. I think it is it scrolls down till he finds it again. 1971 Land Rover Series 3 109 Safari, and I absolutely love the look of this. It is the color combination that you want a Land Rover to be in, plus the Safari roof, which is one of my favorite little sort of quirk features of that series of Land Rover, because as you go through, you get the air lifting the flaps that sit beneath the sort of two roof skins. It draws dirty air out of the cabin. I love the look of it, and it comes with a full trailer on a NATO hitch.
I was just about to say.
Yeah, it's got everything that you need in like a usable, tractable Land Rover. It's in really nice condition. It's an older restoration, so you're not going to be afraid to actually use it and enjoy it for what it is, but it's got all the sort of little added creature comforts of sort of like slightly nicer upholstery. It's been retrimmed. It's been gone over a little bit here and there. And for me, that is exactly what I would be looking for in an Land Rover. And it's really very nice indeed.
Look at the interior.
Yeah. It's also inline 6 as well, not a 4, which is a very odd engine to get in these.
Yeah, it looks absolutely immaculate.
Yeah. It is just stunning as you flick through all the photographs. You've got the sort of full array of sort of gear levers for sort of getting over different obstacles, all your diff locks, lovely floor panels. Everything has been sort of gone over meticulously. And then you get to the back of it, and then you've sort of got obviously the load bay and all the space behind the seats. And then you've got even more space again when you get to the sort of trailer on the NATO hitch, and you're like, oh yeah, that's quite nice. And like, I don't know what I'd put in the trailer, probably more parts for my MG, but I mean, it's lovely.
Oh, that's got camping written all over it.
Yeah, it is absolutely spot on. The trailer's even got like a bike rack on top of it, and you could say that you've got sort of this huge amount of space and options to go with it. I think for me, it's estimated at £14,000 to £18,000, so I'd really be hoping it goes for the lower end of its estimate to keep it within our sort of our competitive game. But it is just so nicely presented, and a prime choice in my mind.
So bottom line is have a look, because there's definitely lots to sort of consider there. So
there are so many cars in the classic sale coming up at Silverstone Festival, and something for every taste, whether you're after an Astra GTE or a Cavalier 1.8 convertible. There is everything from one end of the scale of hot hatches and sports cars right the way through to slightly more sort of unique and obscure examples of different marques and models. But we'll move on from our test drives to, we've already sort of mentioned things to do this summer with the Silverstone Festival. Obviously, one of the big features in this week's issue is 40 things to do this summer. I would like to sort of hear your top picks from what was collated, and sort of anything else that you feel was missed off the list as well. Anything else that viewers or listeners might want to do this summer.
For me, I think I've already committed to my two picks because I'm going to them both this weekend, which is one of them is the August Hatton Park show, the Classic and Retro Revival. That's looking like it's going to be a really good event. It always has a really good turnout, and they got one of the flagship displays is the UK Rarest Cars display. So that I'd be really interested to see what that chucks up this year. The other one is the following day, which is the Cumbria Classic and Motorsport show, which is Dale, Maine, just off the edge of Ullswater in the Lake District. That has had 800 classic cars booked in. It's fully booked. It's always a really good show. They've got sort of 21 different classes of vehicle, being entered, and it's always a really good vibe. So again, it's a nice, cheap, cheerful show to go to, run by volunteers. I've been always enjoyed it very much in the past. I'm hoping the famous Lakeland weather behaves itself and get a chance to sort of have a look at some cars and then enjoy a pint of Jennings on the way home.
I know the motorsport one certainly caught my mind because I was sort of looking through it. They sort of usually have over 800 classics attending, which means that it's absolutely heaving when it comes to things to look at. Plus, you've got auto tests on top of it and some great displays that they're putting together. So it's a strong entry into a very busy list. Chris, was there anything that caught your mind on the list of entrants?
I'm sadly not going to be able to make it, but I'm really, really curious as to how Mismatch at the Hatch plays out. I think that could be a really quite interesting show. So you can't help but sort of draw comparisons with Festival of the Unexceptional that's just recently taken place. It was a couple of weekends ago. But yes, it's the same sort of ethos of just sort of, cars that are deemed to be mundane, ordinary, perhaps sort of a bit more of a skew towards sort of the modern classic than sort of the regular classic sort of thing. But what really interests me is that they've got sort of a racing schedule planned as well. It's not these cars that will be on track, but there is a series of sort of sports cars that will be sort of complementing all of this. And I think just that juxtaposition of having sort of old, mundane cars to look at with sporting cars on the track could be quite an interesting sort of mix. Pack your sun cream is the case with any sort of circuit you go to, because there's you're going to get scorched sort of thing. But I think that could be a really nice one to have a wander around sort of thing, and you've got a bit of everything to sort of do. Look at old cars, but also watch some racing as well, and you can have a meander around the pits, I'm sure. I think that could be a really, really good event.
It's a new one for this year as well. So there's a sort of, I think, Brands Hatch and certainly like the MSV circuits, there's a group. They're really making a push at the moment to sort of bolster not just their events calendar. They know they've got a great standard when it comes to sort of having classic racing on, but sort of making sure they're bringing something else to it and seeing things. We saw it earlier this year with the Donington Historic Festival, which saw sort of revised paddocks and pit layouts and sort of proper like displays that went along with it, and they sort of saw a bigger turnout than they had done previously. So it's obviously paying off, and Brands Hatch have sort of stepped up with their Mismatch at the Hatch, essentially a sort of a follow-on event from Festival of the Unexceptional, the same sort of vibe, but then to sort of tie in some racing series with similar aged cars to sort of keep the overall theme there is a really unique way of doing it. And again, I think it's going to be interesting to sort of see how well it comes off, and again the unique cars that it brings out, because I know that Brands Hatch are going through an absolutely busy period. I know the weekend just gone they had Festival Italia, which is always huge for them. They have so many cars out and about for that, including obviously the racing stuff on top, the displays. So they're going from strength to strength at the moment, which is good to see.
I've done a few track days at Brands Hatch, and I know that it's only going to be a track parade, but taking your 80s or 90s cars, I sort of envisage just a fleet of Nissan Micras sort of taken to the track.
Base spec Cavaliers doing a lap.
I think it would be an incredible sight. So I must mention that. So obviously that's on this Saturday. The Sunday is also another instalment of Coffee and Cars with All. Always a fantastic event to get along to, completely free of charge, no booking required. It's a really good show to get along to, and always a fantastic vibe whenever we've been there. Again, gutted that I'm not going to be there, but I am going to try and make it to the one that's taking place in September. I think that's the 21st. So
yes,
I need to check my calendar for September because I haven't been to one yet this year. So I really want to sort of get along to one
an excuse to get the mini out.
I won't say that I'll have the MG ready for it because I've said that before with many other events. But
you can say it. No one will believe you. But
I've fallen short of my previous deadlines. But it's so hard picking through this, trying to sort of find something that really stands out, sort of things that I'm looking forward to. The John Haynes Classic really stands out to me because this is the Haynes Museum starting up a brand new event, and obviously celebrating sort of life and times of John Haynes, their sort of founder. And one of the brilliant displays they've got coming up is something called Machines and Their Manuals. And what they're hoping to do is bring together as many cars as possible that have been featured in a Haynes manual.
Nice.
So there will be sort of a full array of all the cars that have ever had a Haynes manual written about them. I know they're still on the lookout for cars that have had that. They have got a fairly good array ranging from sort of minis all the way through to the DeLorean DMZ12. So they've got a good spread as it is, but there's a few gaps that need filling in. So get in touch with the museum, get in touch with the organisers to find out more.
How are they going to do the Enterprise from Star Trek?
I don't know, because I know they also did one for, like, I think the Saturn V5 rocket, which is going to take up a lot of space at the museum car park. But I think when it comes to more conventional transport modes, let's say, but yeah, it's going to be an absolutely brilliant sort of event. If you're looking to just go along for just sort of the simple array of cars that are going to be there, is going to be brilliant. I think also included in your entry to it, you'll get to go in and obviously see the brilliant museum, the displays they've got inside there as well. So that's one that's well worth looking at. And I mean, Great British Car Journey have got a huge array of events on across the year. The one that I picked out for the feature is their Made in Luton one, again leaning on a bit of my own personal choice, but we often see events that really celebrate Ford and sort of the British Leyland. Vauxhall always seems to get a bit overlooked, so it's nice to finally see an event that sort of put Vauxhall
or if
to the
it is
fore.
done, dare I say, that it tends to be sort of the modified Vauxhalls. It tends to be the Novas and Corsa and things like that.
VXRs
Absolutely
and
fine,
everything,
but I do think you need sort of a show where you can see Victors and things like that as well, and they're not going to look quite as out of place.
Yeah, VX 490, something a bit more sort of conventional. And it's nice to see that Great British Car Journey have sort of gone, we'll make sure we include those. So that's in their Great British Masters of the Mark series, which is, that should be a good one to have.
It wasn't until I had a flick through that feature I realised how many of these events are brand new to this year, sort of thing. And I think that's really encouraging for sort of the hobby as a whole, sort of thing. So yeah. And I've stuck in a few sort of events that are a bit further abroad. I know we've already had some of the major ones abroad. We've obviously had things like Le Mans Classic and so on. But Algarve Classic Racing is essentially, they've done, again, this is another racing event that sort of had to revitalise itself to try and sort of keep a bit more interest into it. I sort of did a bit of digging and got in touch with a few friends that write on this scene. And they've said that there's a lot of effort going into this one. So it'd be interesting to sort of, again, see what the return from sort of Algarve's investment is on this one. And again, it's 23rd, 26th of October. It is very late for a British summer, but I think if you're in Portugal, I think it very much still count as quite summery weather. So if you're looking for something a bit later in the season and something a little bit different, you've got sort of 60 through 70s sort of sports racing prototypes and GT cars, essentially the same as you'd see at sort of a UK Masters Series event. But just a chance to do something a little bit different and hopefully enjoy the very last of some good weather. So there's a good spread of events available if you're looking for something to do this summer. And again, if you've got any other ideas, or as usual, if you've got events coming up, let us know. I think editorial@Classic Car Weekly is the address to get in touch with, and we'll do our best to get them all into our listings. One of the big events coming up, though, is the Silverstone Festival. We've mentioned it a bit with the Iconic feature. There's a few bits and pieces that sort of didn't necessarily make the cut for the preview we've got in this week's issue. I think the spread of the Formula One cars that's going to be coming along is incredible. We've got one from every world champion. But Chris, I know you're attending. David, you're not here this year.
No, I'm spoken for at shows up in Wales, actually, same weekend.
So David, might I ask, what element of this year's Silverstone Festival are you so annoyed to be missing out on then? Let's phrase it that way for you.
Well, I think the auction is, we've already spent a lot of time talking about. I seem whenever I go to the Silverstone Festival, spend a lot of time mooching around the auction halls. I like it because there's a really good vibe about it. It's a very good chance to take a pulse of the market. But for me, I think it's the seeing the touring cars out on track, I think, is a really big part of it, and also the lunchtime track parades as well. You don't often get a chance to see so many examples of a particular type of car being out enjoyed on circuit at the same time. And I know last year they had a bit of a run of bad luck. I think they had one day, I think the parades had to be called off because of oil on the track, I think it was, and then there was another day where the weather was so bad it pushed all the racing back, and that cancelled a lot of it. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for everyone at Silverstone that we have weather similar to the day of the recording when it's 32 degrees. If we can keep it like that for the Silverstone weekend, we have hundreds and hundreds of classes on track. Everyone will get the chance to sort of see their car in the sun. It'd be brilliant.
You're saying about the touring cars. I know they've got a huge grid of Ford Sierra Cosworth RS500s heading along this year, and they're competing for a one-off trophy, which is going to be presented by sort of touring car legend Andy Rouse as well. So if you're sort of really into that scene when it comes to both the classics and them on-track racing, one to look out for. Chris, what's sort of caught your mind when it comes to the Silverstone Festival? When was the last time you attended as well?
I'm racking my brains to try and remember it. It'll be a good few years. I mean, when I have gone in the past, it's just just mooching around the various sort of club stands. I think it's fantastic to sort of have all these variety of sort of cars parked in the infield sort of thing. So it's a bit like what I was talking about with Mismatch at the Hatch, that idea that you've got a show within a show sort of thing in terms of the infield with the various clubs, and you can take breaks from it to then sort of see the racing and then get back to sort of mooching around sort of thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going and chatting to some owners about hopefully some quite rare and interesting cars. So yeah,
if you want rare and interesting, I think one to look over would be the Jowett Jupiter. We've mentioned them previously with our Le Mans Classic coverage, and I know that they have got obviously cars entered in the Woodcote Trophy, the period sports car races there, and then they've got 20 more, at least 20 road going cars that will be on the Jowett Car Club stand as well. They've got a big presence at this year's event, which would be nice to see. And again, they're always a friendly club to sort of get along to. Have a look at these genuinely very interesting and brilliantly engineered cars as well. So worth heading over and having a look there. And of course, we ought to mention celebrations for sort of tying in a bit with David's was the Jaguar XJS and Lotus Esprit. We wrote about the Esprit earlier this year, shot at Silverstone, and obviously the XJS ties in with it as well, as both celebrate essentially their 50th anniversaries.
Will look amazing, I'm sure, but the idea of again having all those Lotus Esprit out on track, I think that could make for quite an image as well.
Yeah, it should be a really good tour. I will say the thing that I'm looking forward to, I might have already sort of alluded to it a little bit, is the F1 celebrations. We've got obviously very historic F1 cars that are going to be heading out on track. We've got the 70s, 80s models heading out as well in the Masters series. And then on top of that, they've got this huge display that will have one car that represents each of the drivers' world champions. So I think we've got 36, 38 of them off the top of my head. Everything from sort of the brand new sort of Red Bull of Max Verstappen for the previous seasons, all the way back to sort of Lancias and Maseratis and Ferraris that represent the earliest world champions. So we're going to have like this brilliant range of history. It's an educational thing to sort of pour over and learn from.
Yeah, you imagine sort of these coffee table sort of books and the images that's just going to be like laid out almost like that sort of thing. So you get to sort of go and live it rather than sort of read about it. So.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely fantastic to sort of dive into that. And I think even when it comes to sort of further single-seater racing on track, they've got a full capacity grid for the historic Formula 3 race as well. So these are the 500cc little single-seaters. And they've basically say, look, we can't accept any more. We're at as many of these as we could physically have racing on track as at one time. And some of those sort of cars they've actually got entered into this race have got huge provenance behind them and great bits of history. If you're really into that sort of piece of history, that sort of section of history of classic motor racing, it's well worth going and finding them in the paddock and learning more about these cars, because there are some brilliant sort of, if you're into it, there are iconic cars within it. If you're not into that section of racing or classic cars, you're just like, okay, I guess that's important. If you're sort of in it and want to learn more, or would like to learn more generally, they're well worth going and finding out something about.
More than a few sort of pinch me moments sort of thing in cars that you rarely see, but it also be moreover the combination of those cars together in one place. So.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think this year is lining up to be a genuinely incredible event. I know that they've got drag cars back on the sort of drag strip as well, so there's going to be something for everyone, regardless of like your taste in classic car or classic action. So 100% well worth getting hold of last minute tickets for and getting along to.
Definitely.
We've been chatting for nearly 40 minutes now, so we would usually dive into at least a news story, but again, this says as to how packed this week's bumper issue is that we've been talking for 40 minutes, we've barely scratched the surface, so obviously
there is a lot in this week's issue. It's well worth a look.
Goes without saying, make sure to get along to your local newsagents or shops and pick up the latest issue, or better still, subscribe to never miss out. And we'll be back next week with another edition of Classic Car Weekly and another podcast. I can't even remember what we've got in the next week's edition.
Oh, okay. I can fill that gap. So
many things.
We have a road test of a Renault 5 GT Turbo. With the buyer's guide, we're looking at the series Sunbeam Alpine.
Plenty to look forward to in that case. Chris, David, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week with another edition of Classic Car Weekly.